Welcome everyone to Oklahoma Sportscene, brought to you by Bricktown Brewery. I'm Gil Cloud, sitting in for Chris Lincoln, who is in London or England or somewhere in the United States or the United Kingdom or wherever he may be, and sitting in for J.B. Haney, who's still on the injured reserve list, is Don King, our good friend for many years. And Don, it's been a real exciting time here in sports the last couple of 3 weeks. Today we're going to have Cayden McFarland come in and talk to us about spring football. We'll talk a little bit about the NCAA basketball, and then we have a lot of other people coming.
Well, I'm excited to find out what's going on with spring football, because we're still in the midst before the spring practice games. So I'm anxious to see what the quarterback duel is with all three schools.
That's
because all three have question marks at quarterback. There's no set quarterback that's been named as a starter for 2019 yet.
Exactly. And we'll have Nick Sidorkais will come on board with us, and he'll talk about the special aura of the Masters and why it's special, and of course the women's tournament that was played last week there, which is monumental at Augusta, and then we'll talk about the renovation at Southern Hills, and I know that he's excited, and I know the members are excited, and hopefully about a month and a half they'll be able to open up again.
I'm ready for that.
And then Janice Gibson from First Tee, and you're completely involved with Janice with your kids.
My youngest son Jared is 32 now, and when he was about 14, started in the First Tee program with Janice. It was one of her first classes, and he's now, he has picked up the game of golf, has a great passion for it, and plays 2 or 3 times a week.
No, it's a great program, and I'm fortunate to serve on that board. And what I've learned about the program from an educational standpoint, they have the ACT prep, the SAT prep, along with teaching sportsmanship and ethics and so on. So I think it's really, really a great program. And our program, of the 155 across the country, is the only one that's free to the kids.
Is that right?
Every other place the kids have to pay. So,
and she's a Hall of Famer.
And she's a TPS Hall of Famer from Nathan Hale High School, you bet. And then we'll have the Remington report. Of course, Dale Day at Trackside will give us everything that went on last week at Remington. So let's get into our hot topics. I think it's time.
Speaking of Remington, before we get to the hot topics, the Kentucky Derby is about 3 weeks away, and they have a horse racing this weekend in the Arkansas Derby, Long Range Toddy, that's out of Remington Park.
Oh my goodness!
So I'm excited. I'm a horse racing guy like Chris, and so I'm excited to see how.
When I grew up in Louisville, Kentucky, I lived a mile and a half from Churchill Downs, and I did not realize the opportunity. My dad was a purchasing agent for Williams Company in the Louisville office. So we went once a week, every week.
Is that right?
Yeah. I didn't appreciate what I was getting, actually. I've been to 2 Kentucky Derbies when I was 10 and 11.
How about that?
I don't remember much of it, but at least I can say I went to 2.
Right.
All right, Final Four. Gosh dang, Virginia might be the luckiest good program in the country.
Right. And how about their good fortune? Ducati hits that one shot to get them into overtime of one game. You've got to have some luck, don't you, Gil? Out of 64 teams, to get to the Final Four, you got to have a little luck.
Right.
Then you got to have some more luck to get to the final, and the ball has to bounce your way. And congratulations, it was a great game. I'm really proud of what Tech did.
Well, Coach Beard and his staff, Sean Sutton and everybody involved, I think prepared their players for success, and it just came down. Well, it went to overtime, so how much more can you do? I guess you can have one more point.
One more made basket.
And win it. But great for the Big 12, men's basketball. And then we turn around with the women, and Baylor wins. 82-81 over Notre Dame. And so the women from the Big 12 win. And then Texas wins the NIT. So everybody talks about the Big 12 is more slanted toward football. I'm not sure. I think basketball's pretty good.
And I've said that over the last several years, that basketball might be, team for team, a better conference for basketball than it has football over the last several years. And speaking of Tech, wasn't it nice for them to come through the BOK Center in the first weekend?
Yes.
I think I meant to look this up, but I think the last time the BOK Center hosted the NCAA tournament, 2 years ago, I believe the champion came through Tulsa as well.
I think you're right. I think you're exactly right. And, one other point that I just heard today, had Texas Tech won, they would have been the only team to ever lose the first game in their conference tournament and win the national championship.
Right.
But they were so close, but yes, so far. Well, we got the Thunder. Thunder up.
Here we go.
Here we
Playoffs
go.
next
They
week.
can be anywhere from 8th to 5th on these next 2 ball games. Tonight, they're playing Houston Rockets, and that's going to be tough. And then they have to go to Milwaukee, and that's really going to be tough. Milwaukee has the best record in the league. And so, and they really need to win 2 to move to 5. If they win 1, it's anywhere from 6 to 8. It just depends on the other people. So I don't know about the Thunder.
The way they're playing, don't you just have to worry about yourself?
Oh,
don't you just have to say, hey, look, it doesn't matter who we're going to play. We're going to be the underdog anyway.
Exactly.
So let's just worry about ourselves and get our act together. And it has been one of the most disappointing and surprising collapses, if you will, from the first half when they played so well to the second half. And I know a lot of it has to do with shooting. Paul George, I think, is maybe more injured with the shoulder than they're letting you on to believe, letting us on to believe. But defense, they just haven't been as good the second half as they were the first half.
No, they really haven't. And of course, they've had some injuries. They've been people in and out of the lineup, and I think the continuity, runs that chemistry that you have with who's the shooter and who's the passer and so on. But we can just hope. The playoff schedule will be out here in a couple of days, and we'll see what happens. How about those ice holders?
How about that?
Oh my goodness! We had Rob Murray on here last week, and he was really excited, about this bunch. And then the next day they take 5 up to the AAA, and he wins the next 2 with the new people. What a great coaching job he's done this year.
Well, and with the Drillers winning the championship last year, raising the banner here recently, wouldn't it be nice if the Oilers could do the same thing? Because quite frankly, we were starved for something during the winter. We didn't have any good college basketball, men or women's teams to follow. I'd love to see the Oilers make a deep run, and their run will last about as long as the NHL Stanley Cup. So let's hope we got a couple more months of hockey.
They play forever. I looked today and I saw the first series is 7 games.
Yeah.
I thought it used to be 5 games.
And
then
they're all 7. Yeah,
we played the first 2. And matter of fact, Thursday and Friday, they'll be playing Kansas City at the BOK. 7:05, first puck dropped. And then they go to up to Kansas City for 3. And then hopefully come back. And they don't have to come back. Hopefully they won 4 and they're out of it. But really happy for them. They ended up 42-24 with 90 points, and the most points that any Tulsa team has ever scored.
Is that right?
And currently they won the league, the regular season, so that'll be good. And the Roughnecks 3-2-1. Now and just got beat by the Los Angeles Express over the weekend 4-2, but it had been 3-1-1. Michael Niasen, BTW grad, has really done a good job of putting that team together.
I have followed them quite a bit and been to a couple of practices, and I love the way he handles things. You can tell there's a lot of mutual respect between he and the players. They've gotten off to a great start. The 3 wins matches, I think, what they did all of last year, right?
Toward the end of the season when he took over.
So they're off to a great start, and I really wish them the best.
Well, I do too. I think it'd be great. It's good for Tulsa when our teams are successful and have some great things. They will play at home not until the 24th. They're on the road to be in Fresno this next weekend, and then they'll be with the back-to-back 24th and 27th. They'll play Colorado Springs here on the 24th, and the Oklahoma City Energy on the 27th, and that could be big.
That will be a big game.
That will be a big game.
Match,
I think it's really exciting for them. As we get into the rest of our show, we've got really some good folks coming, I think, that will be interested in what we have to talk about. I'm glad you're here.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
I understand you had a little career change now.
Well, I've been with Tyler Media, the franchise, 107.9 and 107.7 in Oklahoma City, and we'll continue to do some on-air stuff, hopefully for them. But as far as working every day and being in the sales end, I'm ready to semi-retire, work 2 to 3 days a week for an advertising agency here in town.
Well, Don't be like me and flunk retirement 3 times.
Yeah, people that know me know I've been saying this for 2 or 3 years.
There you go. All right. Well, come back when we start up with our Cayden McFarland from Channel 2.
Well, you know, Jimmy's Egg, of course, is the place to go for breakfast or lunch any time of the day, starting at 6 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. Jimmy's Egg, of course, with 3 locations in Tulsa, 22 company stores, 17 more in Oklahoma City. Want to be really cool, though? Go to the phone and get the Jimmy's app. Jimmy's app, you just pull up whatever you want. They have coupons, they have specials, they have the entire menu. You can order online as well. Jimmy's app with Jimmy's Egg. Can't beat it.
At Rogers State University, we keep things personal.
It all starts here.
We make sure our graduates get the most out of their education.
RSU has campuses in Claremore, Bartlesville, and Pryor, with on-campus housing and a wide variety of programs to suit your needs.
It all starts here.
Rogers State University.
They're here, they're new, they're Bricktown's Brick Twisted Foods. And listen to this lineup of some exciting new type foods at Bricktown Brewery restaurants. How about this? Pork green chili tachos. That's right, tachos. Homemade tater tots, top of pulled pork, green chili, cheese, bacon, cilantro, and top with a fried egg. Ooh, yeah. Hot fig and goat cheese dip as well. Also have their fried chickpea salad, protein salad bowl, steak and cheddar sandwich. All at Bricktown Brewery. Get and try the twisted food.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Sportscene, brought to you by Bricktown Brewery. And I tell you, we have a special guest from Channel 2, KJRH.
Yeah.
The sports director, Cayden McFarland.
Pleasure to be here. So glad you asked me back.
Glad to
have
have
the
you.
first time. And
we're right in the middle of a lot of things right now. We've got basketball, we've got soccer, we got a major league pitcher pitching in Tulsa tonight.
This town, you know, people. I grew up in Albuquerque, and so people who may not be that familiar with kind of all there is here will ask me, so what are you covering out there other than the Thunder? And there is so much, is there not? And I mean,
amazing.
Kershaw pitching in Tulsa on Tuesday. I mean, that's fantastic. That's kind of one-of-a-kind stuff. But we do have so many other things going on. And then, you know, the national championship game, the Sean Sutton connection. There's always something. There's a major league pitcher who came from here, a guy in the NFL doing big things who came from here, and then OU football is a topic of conversation all the time. So it is a joy to cover sports in the city of Tulsa.
Well, you have enough to cover.
We do. I do not run out of things, no doubt.
When you look at the NFL season, too, you have the Dallas Cowboys, the Chiefs.
That's right. Once upon a time, you know, my guy Big Al.
Right.
They would, when staffs were a little bit bigger, I mean, they were down there every Sunday. We can't quite pull that off, but you're right. There are local connections everywhere. There are a lot of, you know, NFL guys doing big things from right here. TPS guys, you know.
Absolutely.
Tyler Lockett's one, and we're looking at Justice Hill likely being drafted.
Right.
I think pretty high. Jordan Brailford probably as well, and then Josh Jacobs, the guy that we all missed for so long at McLean, likely to be the first running back taken in the NFL draft. So there's always, and that's such a great story. In fact, the NFL just got some of our video, the Channel 2 video we did from his signing day 3 or 4 years ago. So they're going to put that together, and that'll be a nice little piece they do on draft day.
What a great kid.
No doubt.
Fantastic kid.
No doubt. Considering the background, if you don't know, absolutely read up on it. Things were tough there for a while.
You bet.
And for him to be of the caliber and quality he is, it's truly remarkable.
It was amazing. My close-up with him was over at Cassia Hall on a rainy night his junior year, and he scored 8 touchdowns, 6 of which counted. They called 2 of them back, and I think literally the shortest one was 40 yards.
Gil, why didn't you get on the horn with Bob Stoops? You know what I mean? He was missed by everybody, right? And I mean that goes for TU, OSU, OU, and like we get it, man.
I can remember.
It happens, but for Alabama to have done its homework and be able to pick him off, and for things to happen the way they have for him, I mean it's the kind of story that just does not come around every day, not just here, but anywhere.
I remember in the 3rd week of the season, he was literally dominating the people that McLean would be playing.
Sure.
And so I called the athletic director, Philip Johnson, good man, and I said, Philip, who's on him? Well, Wyoming is coming next week, and
poor Wyoming. They're always on guys, and then it never actually happens.
And it was none of the upper tier Division I. Then all of a sudden, it got to week 7, week 8,
Yeah.
and he's running at will. But let's talk about spring football.
You bet. We got all three going.
How about TU?
I was there on Saturday, and I would say that there were more positives than things that were not positive, especially for a 3-9 team. I know they feel like they're ready to take a big jump, and I think the biggest reason they feel that way is that they feel really good about their defense. Gillespie steps in for Bill Young, but he had a lot to do with the switch over to the 3-3-5 defense last year. They're long, man. In the back end, some of those corners and safeties will really jump out at you, and you think, that doesn't look like a TU secondary player. So they're long, they look like you want them to look, and then really, I think the best player on that defense is the linebacker Zayvon Collins from Hominy, who's 6'4", 250, and he reminds me of Brian Urlacher, who was at the University of New Mexico when I was. By the time he was done, he was catching punts and fielding punts and catching touchdowns as a tight end on top of his duties as a safety linebacker. I'd love to see Zayvon doing some of that because I think he's that kind of talent. That's an NFL guy. So the defense looks good, and they look good in that spring game. They only allowed 2 touchdowns. The 2 touchdowns came from Zach Smith on long touchdown passes where, I'm telling you, I've been here for 11 years now. David Johnson had a great arm. Paul Smith had a great arm, even though the motion was a little unorthodox. G.J. Kennedy, Dane Evans is still playing in the CFL, got a contract extension just today, in fact. But Zach Smith, I think, throws the ball better than any of them. The ball comes out of his hand a little bit differently. Like, that is an NFL delivery, and the touch is fantastic as well. So we didn't see a lot of him, and from that, I think he's seen enough. I know Seth Boomer did a nice job at the end of last year, Collinsville native. And look, it's still a battle. Montgomery's not going to name a quarterback, but when you see an arm as talented as Zach Smith's, you just assume they're going to find a way to get that guy on the field, and I think it can take that offense to a different level.
2 touches, 60 and 63 yards.
Yes.
They've got to get the ball downfield.
They do.
That's been their problem the last few years.
Absolutely.
They've not been able to get the ball vertically down the field because they haven't had a quarterback that could do it.
That's right. And that is more important in their offense than it is most spread offenses. When Coach Monty was doing big things at Baylor and then his first couple years at TU, that has to be the threat. I think they use that the way NBA teams today use the three-point shot so much more than they used to. It's just a percentage thing. If we take this many of them, if we rack up 30 or 40, we're going to hit enough that it becomes efficient for us. If you take that many shots downfield, you'll get enough pass interference penalties or long touchdowns that it just makes sense to do it. And so it goes, for me, that offense is the running game, and really, a pretty smash-mouth running game right up the middle, and then deep shots. And what you said is exactly right. They haven't had that the last couple of years, and they absolutely need it.
And they've got to keep Brooks healthy. Shamari Brooks has to stay healthy.
It was touch football for him. In fact, I don't even know if Shamari touched the ball, maybe a couple of times. And then Corey Taylor, Holland Hall kid, who's their second running back, was also wearing the black jersey. We're not touching him. So look, they know that. They know they got to keep those running backs healthy. And that offensive line's got to come along. They lose 3 guys who were 3-year starters. So those are the 2 big questions, the 2 questions marks for me. That offensive line, how good can they be, and how good can they be for that opener against Michigan State? I mean, those guys are some killers. And then the wide receiver play. I would say what I've seen so far, not exceptional. They've got some talent. Some guys are going to have to get better, but you worry about them a little bit there. Defense, really, and usually I'm not saying this, the defense seems okay.
Well, and I tell you what, that opening game, you hope it's not demoralizing. Because, they're playing, in East Lansing. They're going to get beat up. There's no question.
Yeah, those guys come after you.
And so it's well, let's move on to Oklahoma for a while, and then we'll come back after we have a break here. But quarterback controversy?
No, I don't think so. There's no doubt in my mind that Tanner Mordecai's going to be a fine player. He got into the game, I can't remember, it maybe would have been their very first game of the year last year against Florida Atlantic, and threw one down the field, and it looked like you want it to look. But Jalen Hurts didn't come from Alabama, a guy who's won a national title, played for another, 26-2 as a starter, to sit on the bench. They'll get him up to speed. In fact, just from the practice film we're able to see, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I don't get to watch OU practices. They let us shoot twice in the spring, the first 15 minutes, which is just stretching and, guys warming up a little bit. But some of the things we've seen from in-house that OU has shot and put out there, Jalen Hurts has an arm that's maybe a little bit better than I thought. He's not Kyler Murray. He's not Baker Mayfield. They're going to have to use his legs a little bit more than they did for Baker, obviously, and differently than they did for Kyler. He's not going to rip off 75 or 80-yard runs. But his arm's plenty good enough for this offense to really hum. I expect them to take at least a small step back. They lose a lot on the offensive line, obviously. They're going to score a lot of points. And Jalen Hurts, as long as he stays healthy, I mean, they're going to be in good shape. I look forward to seeing in the spring game Saturday what that all looks like. Yeah, how far along they are. Not that I'm going to make a determination, is this guy going to be any good or not? I have no doubt he's going to be good, but just how far along are they?
Well, running backs. What about running backs?
Well, I think they're probably, in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
they always are. You would love to be able to bring back a guy like Rodney Anderson, who had his season taken away from him last year. But they are just fine. And at wide receiver as well. You lose Marquise Brown, but just fine at wide receiver as well. So the skill talent's really good.
Before a break, I think their biggest question could be kicker. Seibert's going to be a hard replacement for them.
That's fantastic.
And
that's a really good point, no doubt.
Of the game.
Yeah.
Offense, defense, and kicking. Well, we'll talk about the defense, which
you bet.
will be interesting to talk about.
That's what's really interesting.
Come back with us in a moment after these messages from our sponsors.
Bricktown's Brick Twisted Foods, and listen to this lineup of some exciting new type foods at Bricktown Brewery restaurants. How about this? Pork green chili tachos. That's right, tachos. Homemade tater tots, top of pulled pork, green chili, cheese, bacon, cilantro, and top with a fried egg. Ooh, yeah. Hot fig and goat cheese dip as well. Also have their fried chickpea salad, protein salad bowl, steak and cheddar sandwich. All at Bricktown Brewery. Get and try the twisted food.
Welcome to OKC's most unique casino experience. One moment you're surrounded by dazzling lights, jackpotting the latest and greatest machines in town, and the next moment, cheering home a winner in the greatest quarter horse racing show on earth. It's a truly unique 24/7 gaming experience. The only casino in OKC that can make your heart truly race. And has extreme racing with camels, ostriches, zebras, and more on April 28th, only at Remington Park.
Jimmy's Egg now introducing a 55-plus menu. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Special items and special prices for us a little older, I guess you'd say. Also, don't forget, coming up on Jimmy's Egg, they have free pancakes. That's right. You download their app, you can order free pancakes. The best ever, of course, at Jimmy's Egg. They serve breakfast and lunch all day. They open at 6 a.m. They close at 2 p.m. Locations throughout Tulsa, throughout Oklahoma City, 22 company locations. Jimmy's Egg, simply the best.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Sportscene, and we're talking about spring football. And now the big question, guys, is the OU defense.
Sure.
We changed coordinators. Looks things like we changed players. Where are we going to be?
Well, Alex Grinch admitted after a scrimmage week before last that things were not just hunky-dory. You know what I mean? Things were not perfect. They didn't have a great day.
The word I heard was vomit.
It wasn't great on that day. That said, there have been some really positive things said about several guys that, like Levi Draper, for instance, who's a Green Country kid who just could not see the field with Mike Stoops as the defensive coordinator. He's been, he's been given a fresh start, and you're hearing good things about him at linebacker. Now, to me, and this went overlooked last year, as the defense got off to a tough start. They lost 5 guys to injury for the season before the season ever began. And they weren't necessarily starters, but when it's more than 1 or 2 and you get down to 3, 4, 5, your depth is affected. And it was for them last year. And so the biggest story coming out of spring, no matter how good Jalen Hurts may look or not look on Saturday, the biggest story is the loss of Caleb Kelly, the senior linebacker who had played, I think, 36 games for these guys. Last year he was sitting and they were trying to redshirt him, and eventually, when Mike Stoops was fired, they went to Kelly and he ended up making some big plays, made a really big play against West Virginia where he had a sack and picked up the fumble and took it in for a touchdown. Talented guy who was a 5-star out of California, and they were convinced that he was going to come on and do big things for them as a weak side linebacker. Just thought he fit this defense better than he did Mike's, and he was ready to go. And not only that, but really like just a good guy off the field, the kind of guy you can rely on, and a senior, and handled everything that was so difficult last year and really his first 3 years with some class. Reportedly it's a torn ACL. which means almost certainly he misses the entire year, and that's killer. They've also lost Jordan Kelly.
Yeah.
Union kid who, look, he had passed some of the veterans. Like, he was not going to start, but he was going to come off the bench when Neville Gallimore needed a break, and you always do, right? At defensive tackle, you got to be able to rotate those guys. To lose both of those guys in the spring, man, that hurts. I'm not going to say it's killer. People are still optimistic about what Alex Grinch brings to the table. One of the great quotes from him over the last couple of weeks, he tells his players, what's the answer? More aggression. What's the question? Doesn't matter. So, like, they're going to be more aggressive. Like, he brings it. They're not going to be catching blocks up front like they have with defensive linemen so much the last few years. They're going to be coming off the ball and looking to get after people. I think the defense is going to be better. I think they'll turn people over more. But losing Caleb Kelly was really, really big. There's just no sugarcoating that.
Well, one other thing that Don brought up, what about the kicking game?
Well, we'll have to see, right? Losing Seibert was really, really big. And, it's funny, my guy Barry Trammell with the Oklahomans, he's the one who's always asking the kicking questions. Most of us, I don't want to say we roll our eyes, but just never think to do it. But it is crucial, there's no doubt. And, look, there are seasons that end up in the playoffs only because you had the right kicker at the right time a couple of times during the year. And there are seasons that fall short because of that. So,
and he did them both.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yeah, all of it, yeah.
That's exactly right. So we shall see. To me, you got to see that on Saturdays. I know that obviously those guys are working during the spring and they'll work in August as well. But I got to lay eyes on a kicker and see him do it when the pressure's on.
Well, when
before
the people in the stands and the
we're
band's
good here.
playing and everybody's there.
That's exactly right.
What about Oklahoma State?
Well, their spring game will be on the 20th. The quarterback competition, I don't expect Mike Gundy to name a starter. He's done that before coming out of spring. I get mixed reviews on Spencer Sanders, who I think eventually will emerge. His high school tape was just that impressive. He is the dual threat that just about everybody's looking for. He's not real tall, like 6'4", but he's tall enough. He's 6'2". He's a guy who can move. He has a big arm. I've heard some people say he's the best arm they've had there since Whedon. And I've heard people talk about sort of some inconsistencies or a bit slow to grasp it all. So I don't know. Drew Brown played a lot of ball at Hawaii, transferred, sat all last year. He's sitting right there. It's going to be one of those two guys. I'm certain the freshman Costello you wouldn't think is going to leapfrog those guys. I think eventually it's got to be Spencer Sanders if OSU's going to have the kind of season they want to have. They got to have great quarterback play. Taylor Cornelius was a great story last year. And he'll get a look in the NFL. He'll get into somebody's camp. Big guy, can throw the ball. But the inconsistency, there were days where he just didn't have it. OSU, if they're going to be a 10-win team, like they've been so much over the last decade with Mike Gundy, quarterback play's got to be exceptional. And I think Spencer Sanders has the highest ceiling, so he's got to be the guy.
I heard the phrase today that this really, of the three Division I's in our area, that's really the only quarterback challenge that the coaches have right now.
I tend to agree, where it's a complete question mark for me. Like, I would be stunned if it's not Zach Smith rolling out against Michigan State for TU in August. I'd be stunned if it's not Jalen. I'd be completely floored if it's not Jalen Hurts for OU. OSU, I really don't know. I think it'll probably be Spencer Sanders, but maybe not. And we've seen them a little bit, and it looks good as they run around and throw it. But the 20th, when we get to see them in the spring game, that'll be the first time we really get to lay eyes on Spencer Sanders doing anything of consequence, anything more than just
Drew Brown.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I didn't see any of that last year.
I think it's going to be Brown, but eventually, like you, I think it'll be Sanders. My question about OSU is the culture. There were so many guys that jumped off the ship last year very early. When McCleskey leaves,
you're right.
And he's getting some tosses to him, and yet he leaves and others leave. What's your feeling on that?
There were some red flags there. Mike Gundy addressed that in his most recent media session, where what went viral from that media session was him talking about Eddie Sutton not making the Hall of Fame, and that was really had some great comments. But he feels like they're working better, and they are addressing some things that I think he didn't use the word culture, but I think everything he was getting to is what you're talking about as well. where they just didn't come to work with maybe the same sense of purpose that they traditionally have in the Mike Gundy era, for whatever reason. To be honest, I still can't put my finger on it. I don't think they can. To be honest, they don't know why. They thought they had some great leadership coming back last year. Some kid, Gundy's got some of those catchphrases. He never says a word. He says that about kids that he really, really likes that just come to work every day. Well, he had some of those kids that never say a word. And they didn't necessarily lead, or it didn't result in the kind of preparation that I think he expected. He thinks the coaches are addressing that this spring. And going forward, I think he thinks they're getting back to that cowboy culture he loves to talk about so much.
Let me ask you a question, Gil, because you've coached for so many years. You talk about leadership. When I watch a game, I watch players' postures. I watch how they interact with each other. Can you see that watching a game on TV, whether you feel like they have leadership on the field or not?
Yeah, I think you can. I think you look at key people, your quarterback, your middle linebacker, and see what their body language is. And if it's slouched over and, you got to be up all the time. You're going to have bad plays. You're going to have bad series. But if you're a leader, you've got to go beyond that. And you've got to pick those people up that depend on you as a leader. And I think, when you don't have it, I'm going to tell you, you're lost. I mean, it's tough. So it'll be interesting to see how that turns out. Well, we got about 2 minutes. We got so many things to talk about. My goodness, we had a tremendous championship game last night.
That was good.
We almost had a Big 12 sweep.
We did. And it's been since 2008 that the Big 12 won either a men's national championship in basketball or a football championship. Texas Tech came so close. One of my takeaways, first of all, what a wonderful story. Chris Beard, right now, as good as any coach in the country. What he was able to do this year was phenomenal. Love that Sean Sutton was on the bench right next to him, and you know that he was an integral part. Would love to see Sean get a shot if that's what he wants as a head coach, or stick by Beard at Texas Tech. I mean, there's no reason to think that they won't continue to do big things. One of my takeaways from that, though, I think that the money that football has brought in, TV money that football has brought into all of these Power 5 schools, if Texas Tech can make a national championship game in basketball, every single team in the Big 12 has to think we can do the same. As long as we take basketball seriously and find the right coach, any of us can get to that final game.
And I think that makes a definite difference in what the universities think about as far as their philanthropy program, because we need new facilities at certain institutions. They talk about, I remember when Lloyd Noble was built. Well, it's old now.
It is.
And
they've been trying to work on finding a new one. And
absolutely. I mean, all those things go into the recruiting, the kind of players that you want, because it is an arms race, and everybody's looking at what you've got and where do I want to go, and it's not what am I going to study. It's where am I going to play.
That's right.
And that's the bottom line. But, Cayden, we really appreciate you being here today.
My pleasure.
And Bricktown Brewery will appreciate you coming to see them.
I will appreciate getting to see them much, much more.
And stay with us as we'll come back with Nick Sidorkais from Southern Hills. Welcome back to Oklahoma Sportscene. And now our guest in this segment, a guy that probably everybody knows in town, if you're around golf at all, Nick Sidorkais, who is the general manager and COO at Southern Hills. Nick, welcome.
Thanks. I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Well, this is a special week in golf. It always is. It seems like the Masters, I heard a deal on the radio this morning about a young man who's now on the tour, and said he watched his first one in England when he was 6 years old, and he said, I got to play in that tournament. So let's talk about the Masters. Who's going to win?
Well, I've got probably the top four would be not in any order, but Justin Rose, Ricky Fowler, Rory McIlroy, or Dustin Johnson. Justin's playing probably the best. Actually, Rory's playing the best, but Justin's got the best averages over the last 4 years at Augusta. So.
And Speed, he's done so well at the Masters recently. He hasn't had a good start to this year, but can he turn his game around once he gets to Augusta?
It's more mental with Jordan. I mean, he's got some challenges, and once you lose your confidence in golf, or in any sport for that matter, it's difficult. It's really difficult. So I hope he does. But he's a great champion.
When you look at the driving up the scene, driving up to Augusta, that great scene, I get the same feeling, Nick, when I drive up Southern Hills. When I drive up that driveway, you just feel the major championships that have been played there, all the great golf that has been played at that country club.
Well, it's pretty special, and I'll put our drive up to Augusta's as well. Absolutely. It's 3/4 of a mile, and it's getting better. It's getting greener now. But the Masters kicks off the golf season, so that's the exciting part of it.
Yeah, and you went through, what was it? How long ago was it? 10 years ago, where we had the huge ice storm and you lost the trees?
2007. I'll never forget that time. We lost over almost 400 trees and closed the club for a week to just clean up. But it's a lot of things have changed since 2007 for sure. Here we are 12 years later, and I'm just glad I'm around.
That's true. So are we. I remember going through that, and I live on the other side of Harvard from Southern Hills, and I hear this popping sound. I walk out in the backyard, and it was like you were in some sort of military zone because you couldn't figure out that it was the branches on the trees, and I remember you saying the same thing.
That's funny you mentioned that, because we're on the main drive, my wife in our Suburban, and we're sitting there on the main drive, and I'm wondering, should we close the club or just keep it open? And we're working on trying to clear the main drive, and all you hear is that popping. And I mean, finally I said, and it came down like 5 feet from us, I said, that's it, we're done, we're closed.
Speaking of family, your two sons, since I do the Jinx games, I want to certainly congratulate you on a new grandson recently.
Granddaughter.
Granddaughter.
They made a mistake on the party.
I did not know that. So you have two granddaughters.
There's a story to that, but I have two granddaughters. So thank you very
Charlie,
much.
I know, is the oldest. So Nick has
Campbell's our new granddaughter. She's 7 weeks now.
And Nick and Hunter live here in town.
Yes, they do. So they're not even a half a mile from us.
Oh, that's great.
What's CJ doing now?
He's a banker down in Dallas for Maple Mark Bank, so he's enjoying life down in Dallas.
That's fantastic. Getting back to the Masters, what makes it so special? You mentioned it's really the first of the majors, and it really kicks off golf season. But
I mean, I've been fortunate to be there, and it's the aura, it's the beauty, it's the invitation that you get. You have to be invited to play. I think this year is 111, or it's probably the smallest field that they've ever had thus far. And the golf course is just pure. I mean, it was designed with no rough. Bobby Jones designed it with no rough, and now they've changed that, and of course they change holes and they tweak it each year. So, but I think it's pretty special, and just to be on the grounds, never mind play, there's no place like it.
Oh, I guess not. And last week was pretty historic for the women to be able to play a tournament at Augusta.
Yeah, it was great to see the women on the golf course playing, and especially with, I think, the Masters and the powers that be there opening their golf course to the women the way it should be. Right. And hopefully that will continue. Hopefully they'll expand it to where they play 4 rounds there. I would love to see that, like any other tournament.
Sure,
so hopefully they can evolve to that. But they've made the steps forward to make that happen.
Yeah, we got to get in the door, and once you get in the door, you got a chance. Well, you have big things going on at Southern Hills with the reconstruction of the golf course. Let's talk about that.
So we're done. We're tying up loose ends. We're cart paths are finishing up. The sod's being laid. We're waiting for it to green up. So we've undertaken a $20 million renovation. Half of that on the golf course. The golf course goes back to 1936 roots on the routing. Perry Maxwell design, and Gil's done an amazing job. Reintroduced some bunkers, reintroduced streams, then also lengthen the golf course. It'll now play from the tips over 7,500 yards for a par 70. So now we've Dustinized it as the way Gil talks about. So the carryover bunkers from the back tees is 320. And so what I'm really excited about as well is the practice facility, the 4-bay indoor golf performance center. We've renovated the driving range. We've built a short game area with 3 holes. We've replicated 3 greens on the golf course. That was a large pond, is now a 3-hole facility. And then we have some other facility improvements. We buried our golf bag storage building underneath, so a 15,000 square foot, 1-story garage, so to speak, underneath the golf parking lot. Redone our new entrance, and then tennis courts. So it's a full-fledged event, and we're on budget, under budget actually, and on time. So the goal is to open June 1st.
Well, those are the things that really, realistically, you have to do, right? To be competitive, in that market and to attract major tournaments.
And new members. And so
right.
That's the lifeblood of our club.
Sure.
We just want to keep up with attrition, which 2.5% attrition with the club. But, we're doing this for the members. We're not doing it for an event.
Sure.
But if that happens, which it will, in 2021 with the senior PGA. So it's only 2 years away, which is exciting.
Well, that is, and one of the other things that Nick is involved in is the first tee, and we have Janice Gibson coming on right after this to talk about that. But I'm excited to be a part of it, and I think under your leadership and what we're able to do for kids is just amazing. It's a blessing, and thank you for your time and support of the first tee, especially at Tulsa Public Schools and your time that you've given. We make a difference in children's lives, and we do it through the game of golf, teaching life skills. Absolutely. And that's our vehicle. So thank you. Well, thank you for being here, and take your wife out to Bricktown tonight. There you go. Thank you. Appreciate it. And be right with us when we come back with Janice Gibson from the First Tee program.
Welcome to OKC's most unique casino experience. One moment you're surrounded by dazzling lights, jackpotting the latest and greatest machines in town, and the next moment, cheering home a winner in the greatest quarter horse racing show on earth. It's a truly unique 24/7 gaming experience. The only casino in OKC that can make your heart truly race. And has extreme racing with camels, ostriches, zebras, and more on April 28th, only at Remington Park.
Each week we talk about the GTR, and we know for a fact that Forrest Cameron and his wife Sharon put out a tremendous paper. Well, I brought all 6 of them today. I'd like for you to see them. The Union Boundary, and here is the Owasso Rambler. And if you live in Bixby, how about the Bixby Breeze or Broken Arrow, the Broken Arrow Express, Jinx, District Gazette, and then of course the Tulsa Midtown. All of those, the GTR. If you haven't had an opportunity to read one, do it, and you'll be proud of it.
Welcome back to Oklahoma Sportscene, brought to you by Bricktown Brewery. And our special guest during this segment is a lady that's very busy, has been involved in this business for a long time, Janice Gibson from First Tee. Janice, welcome here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us a little bit about First Tee and what the history of the program and when it started and what all you've been able to accomplish.
Absolutely. You know what? The First Tee is a special organization. It teaches the values of the game of golf. It teaches life skills, and we teach the children. Our program's for ages 8 to 18, so it's for all kiddos. And what makes it really special is it's free to all. We've had many people say, you know what? I can tell a difference between a First Tee kid on the golf course. They follow all the etiquette. So it's really more than just teaching golf. It's definitely more than that, because we want the children to understand the values. We have 9 core values that we link in with one of the golf lessons, and so I like the life skills that it teaches. That's really the gut of the program. Really, it teaches the kids life skills. It'll help them outside of the golf course, at school, and at home, handle different kinds of situations. So, of course, we all love golf, and that's our passion, of course,
right.
for sure.
Jared, my youngest son was in one of the very first tee programs in the late 90s, and Janice did a wonderful job with him. He still plays today and has the passion, thanks obviously to you. You were a pro golfer at one time. What made you want to become a teacher?
You know, giving back to the program, I had many people in my life that gave me the passion. My father, of course, was the one that said, let's go out and play every day. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, I was fortunate enough to join at Meadowbrook Country Club. But I remember I had so many fond memories with my dad. And, you know, I can't think of anything better to pass on to another kiddo. They might not have a family member that plays golf. So, you know, if we can pass that on, the passion, and it's a great sport. I mean, any kind of sport is a great sport, but I think golf is kind of special. I really do.
One of the things that I've learned, been fortunate because of my position, not because of me, I'm on the board of First Tee, and I've learned so much about the operation. But what really, as an educator, makes me feel good about what we're doing is that you have an ACT program.
Yes.
Where you provide opportunities for those kids to learn how to take the test.
Absolutely. And that's the whole idea, is the educational opportunities outside of the regular program. We call it regular programming, 8-week program for the spring and the summer and the fall. Out in between those 2 sessions, we offer educational opportunities for different age groups. So we have an ACT test prep for our older children, and then we also have a reading and math class. And there are so many kiddos that get so much out of those programs, and we can change the difference in their life, really make the direction different, because they can now learn how to read. A system maybe keep them up with their grade level. Just a little bit of assistance can go a long way.
You know, Tulsa Public Schools, all the schools in this area have become really beneficial because of the Hispanic community. The Hispanic community has really grown in northeastern Oklahoma.
Yes.
Last time I saw you was last fall out at Mohawk, where you do a lot of your teaching, and they had a foot golf program that they're starting for Hispanics. Explain that to us.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's part of our program too. We use a soccer ball. It's with golf rules, if you can imagine that. And the golf hole is this big around. That's the kind I need actually right now. But a golf hole is a soccer. You know, obviously you can kick the soccer ball into. But we can teach the rules of golf so quickly. Who's away? Who goes first? How to keep score? The etiquette of the game. How to be honest about your score, etc., etc. So much quicker than if we had a club in their hand. They haven't learned how to hit the ball yet, maybe. So it makes it so much easier to take that, you know, take it to the next level. And the kids love it, of course.
And of course, and you mentioned Mohawk, and you have a nice facility at Mohawk.
Oh, it's gorgeous. Absolutely.
And you have donors who have assisted you with that.
Yes.
Talk about that facility.
Oh, it's a learning center. It's a learning center is at Mohawk Park Golf Course. The First Tee building. It's a facility, learning facility, gorgeous. It's a $500,000 facility just for the kids and the staff, of course. It's packed all the time. We have bus loads of kids coming in to participate, bus loads going back out. We've recently hired 3 van drivers. We have 3 vans to bring the kids to the program, all free of cost. So they come in, they take the hour-and-a-half long class, they go back out, so they're transported. But you know what? It's a roaring. The door is just always continually going back and forth. And last year, I know we transported over 700 kids to the First Tee life lessons. So providing an opportunity for all the kiddos.
Seems like we've been through 2 or 3 vans and all that, where they actually go to the school, pick the kids up, and bring them there, because a lot of those kids don't have the wherewithal to be able to do that.
That's right.
And we're introducing golf to kids who normally in their normal life would never get introduced to golf.
Never. And that's what really our mission is, to provide all children an opportunity to experience the game of golf and its inherent values.
Now, did Tiger Woods help get this started?
You know,
or am I dreaming?
Tiger Woods was involved with the national office,
okay.
And that was when it was started back, you know, in the 90s with the national office, which is located in St. Augustine, Florida.
Okay.
Now, we began programming in 2001. So, but yeah, every chapter is funded locally. So the chapter in Tulsa is one of 150 chapters, approximately. So, and we are one of the largest. I will say we've grown every year. The very beginning, we had 300, a little bit over 300 students in the whole year in 2001, and now we're over 15,000 easily. So we're loving it. It is great. There's nothing better than it. It really is.
How can people help?
Oh, we'd love to have you come out and volunteer. We need volunteers. Of course, each chapter is locally funded, so to keep the program expanding and growing and keep the budget in step with that, of course, we take contributions.
Absolutely.
And you know what? Our program is the only one in the First Tee network that's free to the kids. Totally free.
That's fantastic.
Nothing costs anything. So.
Well, thank you for being here today.
All right, thank you.
We want you to enjoy yourself at Bricktown Brewery.
Oh, well, wonderful.
And we're glad you're here. And when we come back, we'll have an update from Remington Park.
Well, Jimmy's Egg, of course, is the place to go for breakfast or lunch any time of the day, starting at 6 in the morning till 2 in the afternoon. Jimmy's Egg, of course, with 3 locations in Tulsa, 22 company stores, 17 more in Oklahoma City. Want to be really cool, though? Go to the phone and get the Jimmy's app. Jimmy's app, you just pull up whatever you want. They have coupons, they have specials, they have the entire menu. You can order online as well. Jimmy's app with Jimmy's Egg. Can't beat it.
Welcome to OKC's most unique casino experience. One moment you're surrounded by dazzling lights, jackpotting the latest and greatest machines in town, and the next moment, cheering home a winner in the greatest quarter horse racing show on earth. It's a truly unique 24/7 gaming experience. The only casino in OKC that can make your heart truly race. And has extreme racing with camels, ostriches, zebras, and more on April 28th, only at Remington Park.
I bring Tulsa's voice to Oklahoma City and Washington. I build relationships with elected officials and community stakeholders to develop policies that grow the Tulsa region. I loved my time at Rogers State University. The personal relationships I developed with professors really helped develop a skill set that would help me serve the Tulsa region that I care about. It all started for me at Rogers State University.
2019 Remington Park Quarter Horse Meet is on, and Dale Day is trackside to give us the update on last week's races.
A weekend full of trials here at Remington Park for the Remington Park Futurity and Remington Park Derby. Moved a couple of stakes events to Thursday night racing, including our first stakes race around the turn. Rare Thursday night stakes action started with the Grade 2 Pauls Valley Stakes, featuring a great ground-saving ride by Andrew Somniego on Ms. Esther.
Off the rail is the group of 4, and scooting up the rail, saving ground, here comes Randy Wilson and Just a Hillbilly Bone. Just a Hillbilly Bone in the stretch grabs the lead. Blazing Panther charging onto the outside, moving on for second, trying to get past Cloud Ridge. Rockabilly still a player. Ms. Esther skimming the rail. It's Ms. Esther full of run. Just a Hillbilly Bone. Ms. Esther, these two bobbing heads. Ms. Esther squeaks through to get up for the victory in the Pauls Valley Stakes.
Ms. Esther was the only mare in the Pauls Valley Stakes, and she had a perfect trip to victory. Later on April 4th, the Oklahoma breds were featured in the Mr. Jetmore Stakes.
They're off in the Mr. Jetmore Stakes. Quick start inside for Admiral Sting, Raconteur, and Homeboy James. At the back, AJ's Hyde needs a lot of work to do. Outside flying. Here comes Bye Bye Freight Train. It's Admiral Sting on top now by almost a full length. Bye Bye Freight Train making one more push. Paint your fate. It will be Admiral Sting in the Mr. Jetmore by almost a full length.
Admiral Sting picks up his second stakes win of the season, adding the Mr. Jetmore to his victory in the Mighty Deck 3 Stakes here on opening night. 2 nights of trials were held for the $895,000 plus Remington Park Futurity. The final will be on April 20th and feature a field of 10, with the fastest 5 taken from each night of trials, including a lot of shaking going on. Top qualifier on Friday, April 5th, while Uptown Babe led the way on Saturday, April 6th. Sunday, April 7th featured trials for the $319,000 plus Remington Park Derby. 2018 All-American Futurity winner, Apocalyptical Jess, attempted to qualify for the 400-yard event in the second trial of 6.
They're off. Away sharply from the rail, what a flash right there. Apocalyptic Jess now trying to come up on even terms. In the middle, Magaline battling for third. Farther out, a big run from Miss Blue October. It's Apocalyptical Jess up by a neck now. What a flash, not going away. These two getting separation. Apocalyptical Jess on top by a neck over What a Flash. Apocalyptical Jess wins it by a head.
Apocalyptical Jess made the Remington Park Derby final for April 20th. Here's the complete list of qualifiers for the race, restricted to eligible 3-year-old Oklahoma breds. The finals for the Remington Park Futurity and Remington Park Derby take place on Saturday, April 20th, on a big night of stakes action here at Remington Park. And don't forget, mark the calendars, keep it ready to go on Sunday, April 28th for Extreme Racing Day, when the camels, ostriches, zebras, and more make the return to Remington Park. In Oklahoma City at Remington Park, I'm Dale Day. Now back to Sports Scene.
Thank you, Dale. And remember that live horse racing continues Thursday through Saturday in the evening at 6 o'clock and on Sunday at 1:30. Go there, free admission, free parking, and enjoy Remington Park.
They're here, they're new, they're Bricktown's Brick Twisted Foods. And listen to this lineup of some exciting new type foods at Bricktown Brewery restaurants. How about this? Pork green chili tachos. That's right, tachos. Homemade tater tots, top of pulled pork, green chili, cheese, bacon, cilantro, and top with a fried egg. Ooh, yeah. Hot fig and goat cheese dip as well. Also have their fried chickpea salad, protein salad bowl, steak and cheddar sandwich. All at Bricktown Brewery. Get and try the twisted food. Jimmy's Egg now introducing a 55-plus menu. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Special items and special prices for us a little older, I guess you'd say. Also, don't forget, coming up on Jimmy's Egg, they have free pancakes. That's right. You download their app, you can order free pancakes. The best ever, of course, at Jimmy's Egg. They serve breakfast and lunch all day. They open at 6 a.m. They close at 2 p.m. Locations throughout Tulsa, throughout Oklahoma City, 22 company locations. Jimmy's Egg, simply the best.
Welcome to OKC's most unique casino experience. One moment you're surrounded by dazzling lights, jackpotting the latest and greatest machines in town, and the next moment, cheering home a winner in the greatest quarter horse racing show on earth. It's a truly unique 24/7 gaming experience. The only casino in OKC that can make your heart truly race. And has extreme racing with camels, ostriches, zebras, and more on April 28th, only at Remington Park.
Well, thank you for watching Oklahoma Sports Scene with Don King and I. Don, I'm glad you were here today.
Pleasure, Gil. Always a pleasure.
Well, you know, we had some great guests today. Cayden McFarland joined us and had quite a bit of insight about the University of Tulsa, I thought.
TU, OU, and OSU, and still no quarterbacks have been decided on who the starters are going to be.
All three,
yeah,
you know, is still up in the air. Right. And I guess we'll know probably in August when they come back to campus. And of course, we had Janice Gibson from First Tee and told us about the First Tee program, which is a great educational program as much as a golf program. And of course, Nick Sidorkais, the general manager at Southern Hills, that talked about why the Masters is so special and told us why Southern Hills is so special and the things that they've done out there.
I'm ready to get the 2021 Senior Open here. That's going to be a lot of fun to see.
Exciting?
Phil Mickelson, I think, will be 50 at that time.
That might be his inaugural.
It might be his inaugural senior event.
That'll be fantastic. Well, next time Lincoln returns, I'm just telling you now, you know he's going to be back. And we'll talk about the OU spring game. We'll talk about the OSU spring game. There'll still be a quarterback controversy at that point. We'll have Gabby Gregory on, the Gatorade Female Athlete of the Year. And hopefully we'll have a couple of surprises that we'll be able to pull because, you know, when Chris comes back, we'll have to surprise him with what we've done. I know that he's trying to watch us from England right now, and there's no way because I don't think Cox goes to England.
No, I don't think so. Chris, get back safely.
You come back safely. Thank you for watching. Be with us next time on Oklahoma Sports Scene.